Welcome to Strat's Fireside Chat. This is Paul, also known as Strat-Edgy.
And this is Kale, also known as a rather drunk medic.
Alright, so I wanted to talk about Disco Elysium. I wanted to talk about Disco, why do I keep saying disco? What the fuck's wrong with me? Disco Elysium. I've played a little bit of it so far. And, it has completely made me rethink how I look at RPGs. Like, completely. Just in the way that it uses all of the skills that are available to you, to the way you build your character, to the fact that the game has this very kind of natural flow to dialogue, even though it's absurd at times.
Yeah, I've seen how, like, absurd it is. I was there watching you play the beginning a couple of times. That game is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, the fact that you can, if you don't invest in your health, you can actually die in the first, like, minute of the game by trying to get your tie.
Yeah.
That was what sold me on the game immediately. I was like, okay, this game's amazing. I'm gonna keep playing this. It's just that the way that they handle the breath and choice in the game it's insane. Like, I haven't even run into combat yet, and I'm already calling it my favorite RPG of the year, which I think says something about RPGs, right? Because it's like, the game feels more like it's a puzzle game than it does that it's an actual RPG. Because you're a detective, and the nature of being a detective is like you're trying to solve puzzles in the form of who did what, right?
Right.
But the game has you engaging in a lot of, like, hunting for items, which is very indicative of, like, an adventure game, right? That you need this item before you could do this thing, and you need to do this thing before you could do that other thing that you want to do. And it's super refreshing, because there's so much focus put on the dialogue and the role-playing aspect of the game that it has surpassed, to me at least, every RPG made in the last 15 years.
Really?
Maybe even more than that, just in the RPG aspect of the game. And I really don't know how to explain it. I'm still struggling with my thoughts about how all of it works together, and I want to play a lot more of it. But again, it's one of those games like Tides of Numenera, where I really need to be in the mood for that game, because it's taxing on the player. And I guess that's kind of the conflict that I have with the game, because I personally love it, but I haven't been able to go back to play it since Outer Worlds came out.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of the really interesting games that get released are a little taxing in some way. So how is Disco Elysium taxing on you? Is it just mentally taxing?
I want to talk about this whole, like, the difference between it and Outer Worlds, right? Because people are just sucking off Outer Worlds, and it is a good game. I will be the first to admit it. I played through it in probably 4 days and managed to beat it. I mean, that's how much I liked it and played through it. But I think it wasn't satisfying. When I beat the game, I didn't feel a sense of, that was a very satisfying ending to this. I never felt challenged in the game. That's because the AI is kind of fucking brain dead. You pretty much outlevel the content the minute you get off the first planet. The same goes for survival mode. There's never any real challenge, right? And the dialogue, while it was good and while it was funny, felt so much more limited than Disco Elysium. Like, Disco Elysium doesn't give you a million choices in dialogue or anything, but it tailors your dialogue choices to your keystone abilities. So every time you play it, at least it feels this way from the 3 playthroughs I've tried so far with the first, hour or so of the game. Every playthrough is, like, completely different.
Yeah.
Because most of the game is you interacting with people in the game. So, whereas with Outer Worlds, I don't think any other playthrough is going to be different. Like, I tried an intelligence playthrough with, like, low intelligence, a high intelligence one, mid intelligence, charisma, or whatever the equivalent to charisma is in that game, I forget. But I've tried all those builds, and they don't feel any different, mechanically or otherwise. Whereas Disco Elysium, I found myself going about things differently based on the kind of character I was, and it was exactly the thing that I had said in Tides of Numenera, where I feel like they failed to do what they should have done with that game, which is, with like strength builds, I should be able to talk my way out of things by intimidating people. Dexterity, which is the jack, or whatever, the glaive, or whatever the guy's name is, I forget those classes, but if I have a guy who's mostly speed based, I should have really quick thinking. So maybe bluff, right? And with intelligence, the way you talk your way out of things with intelligence, right? But the way that the game was set up is that if you wanted to talk your way out of situations, you literally had to go intelligence. You couldn't go any other way.
In Tides of Numenera?
Yeah. But with this game, because you have so few points that you can put into your ability scores, you're stuck with whatever you got. And I haven't tried a physical build yet, but I have a feeling that a lot of the dialogue options will still be there. You'll still be able to bully your way into situations and out of situations. And I fucking love that. It
makes sense.
Well, it makes sense because it's an RPG. It makes sense because this is how you convince a player to play a role, right? Is that you make them create their character, you make them stick with it. Technically, you could diverge and put points into other abilities every couple of levels in Disco Elysium. That's inefficient. That's an inefficient way to go about things. The most efficient way to go about things is to just stay with your build and keep pumping points into the things that you want to use to do the things that you want to do in the game. I'm fascinated by it, and I want to keep playing it. I want to play it through with different options.
Different builds,
different ways of doing things, but like I said, I could easily boot up Outer Worlds right now and play it for a couple of hours, but Disco Elysium is like a time commitment. You know, it's like when you say to your friends, hey guys, let's get together and do D&D. You know you're going to be sitting down for 5 hours, minimum.
Yeah, minimum.
Maybe 4 minimum, but you're going to be there for hours, doing nothing else but that, right? And that's what Disco Elysium feels like to me, because it's not a game that you could just do in bite sizes. Like, I've already forgotten where I was in the game just in the month or so that I took off of it. So I'm going to have to start over, which I'm not upset about, but it's definitely a time commitment. It's one of those kind of games where you can't stop playing it in the middle of a run.
It's also an extremely memorable game, in my opinion. The thing that I love most about it all the way through is that I didn't even play the game. I watched maybe an hour of gameplay footage while you were playing it, and I still remember the exact way the beginning goes when the dialogue is going and you're trying to wake up from your fucking hangover, and he's like, all aboard the Mesopotamia or whatever. God, like, the voices, the voice acting, the dialogue lines, how witty it is, it sticks in my mind.
And that's the thing, the opening is really solid. I remember the opening completely, but the thing is that you get inundated pretty quickly because of the open-ended nature of how the exploration opens up, right? You get inundated with all kinds of different things that don't seem related to the thing that you're doing, but they are in some way. And if you take too much time away from it, you forget those little small details. Like, I still remember the kids in the back of the cafe throwing rocks at a dead body hanging from a tree. I remember that he, like, runs drugs or something, some amphetamines, the kid, right? I remember the racist guy talking about phrenology with the skull shapes and shit on the top of that scaffolding. I remember the fat guy behind the desk, because he's just this big
bowling ball of a person,
opalescent dude sitting behind this desk. And it really reminded me of the guy from Fallout 1 at Junktown. When you first go there, it kind of reminded me of that. But I don't remember the conversations, and I don't remember the nuances of certain things. And that's, I think, if there's any failing to the game, it's that the stuff doesn't stick with you because there's so much. There's so much to take in if you take breaks. It's one of those games that you really have to like try and play all the way through and play nothing else to get the best experience out of it.
Let's say like you pick this game up and it's the one game you get for a few months. You'll probably have a fucking blast and a half with this game, but it is definitely not something you can play while there are distractions around.
Yeah, like I don't feel like it's something that you can really play while there's other stuff going on, or you really have to concentrate on it. You can't take too many breaks from it. It's really like one of those games you got to play through as a long play. What about you? Have you played anything recently that's just blown your hair back?
I've got a greater appreciation for Yakuza.
All right, tell me about that.
Yakuza 0 is the first Yakuza game ever played, ever even heard about. Didn't know they were a thing, and it's really just showed me how well a good sandbox can be built and how much fun it is, and how even when you have like this really deep story in a crime drama that's set in like in a mostly realistic Japan. I say mostly because it's still a little cartoony, the game, to be honest. You can also have a lot of really fun, interesting, unique, and overall hilarious situations. You can have an underground fight ring underneath a dirty and murky river. You can have a man who just runs around Japan, slapping the salmon, Mr. Libido, and all those characters. You can just have so many fun little things to do within the world and little characters that it all becomes memorable enough without feeling disconnected in terms of gameplay, because one of the greatest parts of Yakuza is every little thing is a minigame. It's its own little separate thing. You want to go to the batting cages, you can win stuff at them.
And they're actually like good minigames.
Yeah, they're very well made and well designed.
Yeah, like I can't think of one minigame in Yakuza that I didn't like.
Even the art of protecting your property when you're trying to buy new stakes and upgrade is just a button masher, but you're funneling money into one manager. And it's hilarious to look at, but easy to do. Nothing's annoying to have to do within the game.
Yeah. That was the thing, like, I wanted to go back to it for a while and just do the open world, like, missions and do all the side quests and stuff in that game. But once I beat it, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm done. But I missed a lot. Like, I missed the Michael Jackson mission.
Ugh, best mission ever. Shame you missed it.
I know, yeah. I'm a little upset with myself that I missed that. I wanted to get it. I just didn't do enough of the side missions because I wanted to see how it ended. Like, I was that invested in the story.
And that's another upside. The story is so fucking good. Genuinely, probably one of my favorite games I've played so far. I'm the kind of person where I'll pick a game up, I'll play it and I'll play it and I'll play it and I'll play it and I'll commit and I'll commit and I'll commit. I'll just try to get through it and beat it and do everything, go all the way through it, and I'll burn myself out. I never found myself burnt out on Yakuza. Yes, I've taken breaks to play other games, but I never found myself burnt out. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. Because in between these really interesting and intense story missions, you get breaks. You get a fight in an underground ring. You get to run a cabaret club. You get to beat the shit out of other scummy people who are trying to ruin said cabaret club. You get to go gamble. You get to do side missions. I mean, there's just so many little things that break up the monotony of having to continue and bum rush through a story no matter how good it is.
Yeah.
That you never feel yourself wanting to leave.
That's what I think that most sandboxes should really strive for. So, like, when I did that video about open worlds are rubbish, that's what I said. Like, every activity that you partake in the game has to be its own fully fleshed out either minigame or mechanic. The act of climbing up a mountain isn't simply, well, just drive your car up this mountain. Alright, you're at the top of it now. That's like what GTA does. It should be like you literally have to find your way up a mountain. Like, Death Stranding looks like that type of game, where the act of traversal is the game. And it's gotten kind of mixed reviews, right? People say it's boring, people say it's frustrating as shit, and it looks pretty damn frustrating. I'm gonna be honest, I am a Kojima fanboy at heart. It does look pretty goddamn frustrating, which is probably the reason I haven't picked it up yet, because I'm not into walking simulators. I'm just not fucking into that.
Heard the story was awesome, but that the gameplay is incredibly frustrating, and I'm
going to
right there with
disagree
you.
that the story is awesome. I am going...
Have you seen the story? Because
I have seen bits and pieces, and I've seen the memes that come out of it, and it sounds like somebody just allowed Kojima to do anything he wanted. Whereas before, there were people saying, that sounds dumb, right?
Sounds stupid!
Like, there were actual writers that handled most of his shit and defucked it.
Because he has some good ideas.
He has some good ideas, but they're...
Checks and balances.
They need work. They need work.
Checks and balances.
And when I see enemies named Skullface and Die Hard Man,
Die Hard Man,
and shit, I just go, yeah. Kojima was watching Die Hard and some of the Marvel movies a little too much.
It's like straight. It's just straight up some JoJo level shit.
It's meme level, man. It's like meme level.
It's
times
just
9,000.
meme tier.
But like, I love his games, and I even love the goofy shit in his games. Hence why I love Yakuza. Like, if you are going to introduce your character, your female character, in Metal Gear Solid 3, with her tits hanging out, right, and Snake like looking at her tits, going,
Colonel,
yeah,
trying to sneak around, but
I'm trying to grab some of that titty. That's funny to me. I'll laugh.
Yeah.
I will laugh. I will admit, though, like, there was a time when I first played that game where I actually turned it off because I was like, that is fucking stupid. Like, when Revolver Ocelot came out and he went, I said, done. Fuck this game.
Goodbye.
This is too fucking much even for me. Fuck this game.
Fuck you.
Yeah, no. I was like, if you're not going to take this seriously, Kojima, I'm not.
I don't have to play your game.
But, I mean, I recently, I would say probably as of like maybe 6 years ago, went through and played the whole thing again, and I kind of got it. I understood what they were going for, and I get it now. But at that time, dude, it was too much. Like, the thing about him is that he front loads all of his games with bullshit. That's part of the problem, and that's the part of him that needs to be, like, pulled back. He front loads all of his games with horseshit. With just boring horseshit, right? Instead of, like, starting off with a bang, drawing you in, and then drawing you down a little bit, and then drawing you up again, and then drawing you down. Sort of like, you know, commercial fiction, getting you that highs and lows, and he doesn't do any of that. It's just like, fucking nothing, and then bam, to fucking 100. You know what I mean? It's nothing and then everything all at once. And it's just like, god damn it.
It goes from boring to too intense.
Or he introduces all of his goofy shit right in the beginning, and then, like, gets serious near the end. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, if you're gonna be goofy throughout the whole thing. Just go goofy.
Commit.
Yeah. But that's why his stuff feels a little disjointed to some people. I get it personally. I understand it. It works for me. I think for a lot of people it doesn't work for them because they feel like it's tonally inconsistent. And they're right. They're right. And then to circle back to the two games we're talking about, that's the thing about Disco Elysium. It's tonally consistent throughout the entire game. Like, from beginning to end, the tone of it doesn't seem to shift as far as what people were telling me. And so far in my playthroughs, it feels that way. It feels tonally consistent. Outer Worlds, tonally consistent, but very easy game. Whereas, like, Disco Elysium, it's got a pretty even difficulty curve all the way through.
Nice.
Is what it feels like. But then again, I haven't played through it all, so I don't know.
Yakuza 0, the tone all depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
It shifts pretty often from silly to serious, from silly to serious. In the beginning, I think when you were just doing the tutorial, and you go through that first major fight with Kiryu, where he's just fighting fucking everybody in Kojima headquarters.
Majima?
Dojima headquarters, there we go. When he's fighting fucking everybody in Dojima headquarters, and there's this one guy who, like, refuses to die. He comes back 4 or 5 times and tries to beat you with an ashtray, beat you with a vase, beat you with a jar of nails, and every time he fails horribly, and you beat him back with it, and he finally brings a knife, you shove him into a urinal, and then toss him out a fucking window. Even when it's taking itself serious, it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, I compare the Yakuza series to, like, Shaolin Soccer. You've never seen... Oh my god, dude. Kung Fu Hustle? What?
No.
Oh my god. Okay. These are games... These are not games. These are movies you need to see. They are Kung Fu comedies. And they are fucking hilarious. They are just tonally off the charts with ludicrousness. Like, one of the people's superpowers, I will call it, like, chi powers or whatever, is this woman who is, like, the landlord for the place. And she's just, like, a real bitch. And that's kind of, like, her superpower. Is that she's just a super bitch. And she can breathe in really big and, like, scream at people. And, like, blow their hair back and shit. It's just...
Realigned her chakras to be a...
Yes, it's fucking goofy as hell, and it's great. Yeah. But that's kind of like what I mean. I don't know. There's, like, I guess, like, 3 or 4 different levels to how games kind of draw me in. The first one is just, like, choice. Do I have a lot of choices? And second, it's the tone. Is it tonally consistent, or is it goofy as hell? And the third would have to be just how difficult it is. Difficulty's really important to me, because I can't feel satisfied just mowing through things. I have to feel like I'm being really challenged. I'm playing Prey right now on survival and nightmare difficulty. And I thought that that was going to be really hard. It isn't. It isn't. It makes me be careful, right? It makes me be careful. And I like that. I like that it makes me be careful, because I can easily die, and I have died once in the game to an enemy. Mostly I'm dying to dumb shit with the physics. But I have died once to an enemy because I was just reckless, and I just ran in to fight them, and they just fucked me up. Yeah, they melted me. You know, that's kind of the thing. Like, if it was way more difficult, and I had to be even more careful, that'd be one thing, right? Because right now I could basically kill anything I come across, and that isn't as satisfying to me. I feel like there should be some things on a nightmare difficulty that you're just like, nope.
Can't do it.
Nope, not doing it. Fuck you. You know?
I don't have to do it, not happening. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Chief Called said this ain't it. I feel like difficulty's always been hit or miss for me.
Yeah, how so?
Some games, difficulty is just having to re-hit, like, a start button. So, I remember turning you off from The Binding of Isaac, which it's gonna be pretty big now, due to the fact that Edmund is now releasing another, the 5th DLC in his game, The Binding of Isaac, and he just released The Legend of Bumbo, another game within that series. And the reason I tried to steer you away from it was I thought you were going to think pretty similar to me. So do you know how roguelites typically have randomization?
Yes.
All your fun in Isaac is based off items, and all the items are consistently randomized, but that doesn't mean you're going to get anything good. My 200 hours experience with the game was I'd restart till I didn't get items that were health upgrades, so I wouldn't die within the first 3 floors. And that can happen really often. You get utility, health upgrade, health upgrade, health upgrade, health upgrade, no DPS increases. And your only way to do it is to get random item drops in item rooms or boss rooms, and maybe a deal with the devil, but those are somewhat inconsistent for your first time playing through, because you got to be really good, not take any damage on the floor whatsoever that is red heart, and yet either have to find a spirit heart randomly, another issue that comes up pretty frequently within the game, or get lucky and teleport in. It's too randomized for a game that has a difficulty where, hey, we give you even less shit. We give you less consumables. We give you worse items. We add items that directly hurt you to the item pool for very little benefit.
Yeah. See, I think that that's because there's a mismatch of priorities in that game, right? So you've got roguelites and rogues, right? So like Stone Soup Rogue is a game I used to play all the time, because it was like something I could easily boot up at work during lunch, and I could play during my lunch hour or play when nobody's looking. And that game is 100% random. It's all random. You know, you basically use your arrow keys and the, the keys on your keyboard to pick things up, to interact with items, but it's all random. So you could die on the first floor pretty easily. And then if you die on certain floors, you'll come back as a ghost, and then that revenant will try to kill your next players, and if you kill it, you'll get all the items from that guy, and
Nice.
all that stuff. Really cool game. I love fucking Rogue to death, to pieces. It's fantastic, right? But that game is 100% random. But with like a Binding of Isaac game, it's like we're saying, okay, this is a skill-based game, but we are going to limit how far you could get in the game based on your skill by random drops. We're going to randomize the most important aspect of the game, right? And in a game like Binding of Isaac, it's absolutely necessary to do that. Right? It's absolutely necessary to do that, because that's kind of the point of the game. But it's also a flaw in the system that you either have to try to play your way past, meaning get so good that it doesn't matter what items drop, that you can almost make it to the last, but you'll never beat it. I've seen people who are super good at the game get really far by getting shitty drops, and then they get to the boss fight at the end with the mother and die.
I've seen people who can actually, like, win the game on really low damage, really low HP, just absolute shit tier runs that you think are fucking nightmares. And at the very end, they are so goddamn pissed off. And these are the people who do it for a living.
Right.
Sinvicta, Northern Lion, those guys, they do that shit for a living. I think Sinvicta's on, like, run streak number 300, win number 300 in a row with his Binding of Isaac series, and it's just like, what the fuck? There were times where I couldn't even get 2 wins in a row because I got nothing but health.
Yeah, but you're also talking about guys who do it for a living.
Yeah.
Right?
They have a slight advantage in the fact that they have all those years of practice.